Good afternoon. Dan, I'm keeping an eye on you. My jet lag meter is sort of sitting right there because he was threatening to fall asleep. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon and delighted to spend a little bit of time telling you about World Design Capital Capetown. And it's been a bucking bronco ride so far, and I want to, from the outset, commend ICSID for being exceptionally brave for tackling Cape Town as a World Design Capital. Having said that, I'm going to just show you a few slides, and then Tim's going to help me, not just yet, Tim's going to help me show you the repository that we've created. So, to start maybe from a national point of view, you may have noticed in May this year, we had our 20th a national election, and celebrated our 20th year of democracy in South Africa. Also, you would have known from the blanket news reports last December that President Nelson Mandela died. And so we found ourselves at the beginning of the year in a very reflective mood. And when I talk to my friends and colleagues in South Africa, there is a sense of urgency about getting stuff done, because in a way, the last 20 years, while magnificent in many ways, there is so much that is left to be done. And we have in the room Team South Africa, Tassos Mugendi, Chris Whelan, where is he? There's Chris, and who else is here? Yeah, Gavin's hiding away there in the back. We have the composite pieces of what it is that we need to put together to optimally leverage World Design Capital Capetown. As you'll know, if you don't know from the brand, this is only the fourth World Design Capital. So in many ways, this is a global brand that is still being developed. And I took the note about brand, the difference between brand and story. But ICSID has been very good about allowing the design capitals to define and express their own narratives with minimal interference. So if you think of the early one, Turin, and then Seoul, and then Helsinki, and now there's this Cape Town thing. So what is it? And I've often asked, like, what is it that the judges saw in Cape Town that they didn't see in Bilbao or Dublin? And sorry, Bilbao and Dublin, but we do group therapy on Thursday afternoons. And I think what the judges saw, other than that we painted the town yellow when they were there, it's Pantone 109C, by the way. It's also now been dubbed Cape Yellow. Was a make a plan, can do attitude that celebrates not just the local user and the local needs, but also focuses very much, mostly through economics, on local materials and local ingenuity. So Mugendi's work as an educator is about capturing, propagating, and telling the story about indigenous knowledge, those things that make us interesting. And we didn't think that Wallpaper or Wired magazine, for that matter, would be much interested in Cape Town. And in fact, we've been astonished at the international design media's interest in what we call the gritty, not the pretty. So if you want lifetime employment, and maybe not very profitable employment as a designer, please come over to Cape Town. So at a national level, design policy is in fragments. Is that fair, Gavin? The SABS owns a piece of it, Science and Technology owns the innovation piece, Arts and Culture created a design policy that was particularly pro-poor or poverty alleviation 20 years ago. So this comes at the right time for us to reboot and maybe pull people together. And I think that our design policy that will be held in October in Cape Town will be a very important convening of national players. Then I'd like to digress slightly to tell you that our board of directors, there are 14 people on the board, and they were constituted through a crowdsourced effort that tried to recognize all the different groupings in Cape Town. And Cape Town is 4.1 million people now, rapidly urbanizing. We're not as big as an Asian city, but we're on the same growth trajectory. So our 14 board members, when I mentioned this to somebody in the private sector, they said, that's not a board, that's a National Assembly. So we have every political grouping that you could find in Cape Town represented on the board of Cape Town Design. So for my team and I, it's also been a balancing act to make sure that people get what they need out of this thing. The bid was won on the strapline, Live, Design, Transform Life. And I want to commend the people who came up with the bid. I wasn't part of the bid team, because they really were, to use a Canadian metaphor, skating to where the puck was going. And Brandon, last night, when you announced the new prize, the Social Innovation Prize, we're there. So Capetown is not so much about design objects, even though there's a university that teaches it. Our architecture is well developed, engineers are well developed, software engineering is doing okay. But design comes off a pretty low base. But here's the beauty of Capetown, is that it is actually the most extraordinary living lab of opportunities for designers to work with very often social activists and political activists, and also these fabulous things called wicked problems. We have wicked problems all over the place, wicked problems for Africa. So we have sanitation issues, we have housing issues, we have poverty, we have rapid urbanization issues, health issues, all those things that if you've been wondering where you could go to make an impact, please come to Capetown. So we have this wonderful combination. When we first started, and I've heard this from Sydney, the Vivid people last night, is that Sydney has a little bit of a self-esteem problem when it comes to Melbourne, and there's all this stuff going on. Well, Capetown also needed to construct a narrative for itself that was separate from our world-class destinations, Table Mountain, Chardonnay, beaches, sunny skies, the same kind of thing that you get from beaches here. So this was an opportunity for us to construct a true narrative, make it visible in a way, of people showing up every day, very often with minimal finance, a lot of need, and a lot of ingenuity. And so when we put the two calls for submissions to the public, we sat and waited. And Capetown also has a not very flattering nickname called Slaapstad. Kaapstad, Slaapstad, so Sleepy Town. We're a small regional capital, blessed with extraordinary natural beauty, but we don't do things very quickly. I think Capetown woke up 2 weeks before the World Cup and started vuvuzelang. So we sat there looking at the back end of our application process, and about 60% of the applications for the first call for submissions happened in the last 3 hours, were submitted in 3 hours. So we were training, curatorial panel, and we had no material to work with. And we thought, oh my goodness, how do I tell Dilke nobody applied? And then it started happening. And in the first call, we had 581 submissions, quickly went up to 700 because people said they couldn't get online, which is a real problem for us. And then in the second call for submissions, we had a better response. So let me show you my first slide. And I only have 3, mercifully. Are you awake, Dan? So our vision, and anybody who's taken a board or a National Assembly through a vision exercise will know that you don't get to this in under 3.5 to 4 hours. But our vision then to transform Capetown through design into a sustainable city, bridging historic divides and building social and economic inclusion. So design very much defined in service of the citizen, in search of meaning, in search of good things, not just as a decoration or as an object. And then my little ragtag team, as one of our stakeholders said, well, I hope you've hired world-class people. I said, well, they're world-class, we're just not paying them world-class fees, but there it is. So my mission then with my team is to identify, nurture, and promote projects that offer tangible evidence of how design improves lives. Now, this, guys, is tough. In South Africa, design, or in the local parlance is design, means popping down to the Hermes store in the waterfront and spending too much money. As you'll know, our currency is really hammered. So design in South Africa, generally, if you ask somebody what is World Design Capital about, they'll ask where they can shop. So I get catty phone calls saying, darling, where's the design? I say, well, where are you looking for it? Because we very consciously have promoted in the neighborhoods and in the townships where these things are happening that people should be using their city differently and getting out to neighborhoods where they wouldn't normally go. So I'm not going to put World Design Capital Capetown in an exhibition center in the city of Cape Town, because that's not where the beneficiaries are. But now you would also know that to change the habits of a fairly deeply divided city takes a lot of effort and a lot of rah-rah, and now we at least have some public transportation. But that's what we're trying to do. So following on 2010, where there was gazillions in a marketing campaign, people are saying, I don't see World Design Capital. I don't see, where can I see it? And I'm saying, get out of your car, get on one of our beautiful My City buses, and go to a neighborhood that you wouldn't normally go to. So for our projects, we've created, and I'll show you some of them. For the projects, after they came through our curatorial panel of 38 people, architects, designers, business people, minority of business people. Of course, if you ask 38 people, you're going to get 38 points of view. But anyway, we got through that. It was quite analog and painful. But after they were selected, we now had to do the due diligence and say, come on, you have to come to the party 2014. The eyes of the world, they're looking at Capetown. Raise your game. It's a beautiful idea. What are you going to do for 2014? So to support very often the very early concepts, not even proof of concept yet, an idea that an NGO has working deep inside a community that is in some distress trying to solve a problem on the ground, very often they need funding, they need marketing support, and what we've done, in effect, is build a marketing platform and a repository that I'm hoping that an unnamed academic institution may get as a result of World Design Capital Capetown. So we had to make a decision very early on where would we place the investment so that our story would be told well beyond 2014. We see 2014 as the start of new collaborations, not the end of the year. So right now we have about 6 months left. We very consciously went completely dark during the election campaign because you don't want to be putting sanitation and shack design and public transportation on an agenda when Cape Town was in the most contested part of the South African election. Now that it's over, we can get going again. I'd like to take a moment to show you some of the projects, and this is a shameless piece of promotion. I'd like to show you our website, WDC Cape Town 2014. It is a responsive website. We've spent serious bucks on this. And I'd like to show you the search bar. Before you go there, Tim, you'll see those buttons on our main clusters. We've now recognized 460 projects, from small to medium to very large to ridiculous. So if Tim types in sustainability into the search bar, and just hold it there, there's a huge number of projects that we've recognized under sustainability. And there's, 460 is a lot to absorb. If you type in Tim education, you'll see, and the scroll goes down. So we've already made this website so that it can be discovered, so people can go to it and when you click on any one of the projects, or projects as you say, you also find the project leader and you find a contact details. So we want to make this thing completely self-service, a supply and demand, create a marketplace for these ideas and possible funders. So please, when you have a moment, and if you're interested in the topic, do go to this. So what we've done now to engage, and this is why Chris Whelan and I were particularly interested, Maureen, in being here with you and Brandon, is we have not been able to engage the business community in a good dialogue about the value of design. And so we're hoping that before this year is over, we'll do some kind of iteration of what you're doing here in the next 2 days to try and attract that. The Cape Town business community, there's small and medium-sized enterprises, some old real estate guys, some old wealth tucked away next to the beaches. But then the group that Chris leads are the 40 blue chips, the regional offices of the blue chips. So we still need to do a lot to educate those people that if they're not already buying design products and services, that there certainly is a strategic benefit to doing that. So that's our big challenge now. In the next 6 months or so, you'll know that where we sit so on top of the topic of wicked problems, those very complicated things that there's no real clear solution to, and given our political environment, that the political sniping or the activism won't stop. And so we have a lot of work to do to engage with groups that would normally be adversarial or negative or away, and to tell them that we are talking about the same people. These are the beneficiaries. The people of Cape Town are the beneficiaries, and not the rich people. We get the flack as well from the high LSMs, but our focus entirely is on design that has an impact that transforms lives. And I hope that, and it's a complicated message to land. If you're from an agency, you say, how do you do that? So we're just keeping banging the drum. And Mugendi, in a radio interview the other day, said when people say, they get caught in the elitist definition or concept of design, and then Mugendi very skillfully said, we're using creativity to solve problems. So and now that we have to do that, we speak 43 languages in Cape Town. So there's sort of 4 main ones, but now we really need to take it to the people, and those people who are the beneficiaries, because they are not online. They are not going to find this website. The organizations, the NGOs may be online, but the people affected, the people that we claim to be helping are possibly not online. So just in the last week, we've made a very good strategic alliance with the bus lines, the big mass transportation, not your fancy Sydney buses. These are all rickety things, but they transport 200,000 people a day for under $1 a day. And it's very interesting because the city of Cape Town wanting to regulate sort of cash and put things on debit cards, the idea to these passengers that you could load up $15 and use it as a debit card is unconscionable. It doesn't even, because they don't know very often that they're going to have the bus money for tomorrow, let alone load up the next 2 weeks' bus money. So very interesting there that there's this technology solution that is seen as a solution, and then the user completely ignored in that. So there are many, many useful debates to be had. I am down to my last 3 minutes and 37 seconds. I would just urge you to take a look at this website, find people that you maybe can collaborate with. We have the 460 recognized projects. All of them need some kind of oxygen. They're all discoverable, and what we've done in pitching sessions is we bring them together, and then they pitch their stories, and we've got some crowdsourced funding going on, and and then people will put up their hands and say, I can help you with this. So think of the World Design Capital Cape Town as something of a benchmark for ICSID as well, and for the design capitals, about establishing an extraordinary theatre of developmental activities. I thank you for your attention. Look forward to speaking to you more later. Thank you.